Hey guys, here we go into the final film study of Luis Ortiz versus David Allen. And first, I want to address some of the comments in the previous video. A lot of people talked about and some of the confusion, right? So, number one, I want to say that aside from Vladimir Klitschko, now that he's retired, Luis Ortiz is my favorite heavyweight. I will not miss a Luis Ortiz fight. He's very good. Nobody in the heavyweight division has had any real success against him. So the nature of this film study is not to say that David Allen was winning, right? Like when I talk about him being controlled by David Allen, that's not to say that I thought that David Allen was winning the round. Definitely not. He was getting his ass beat, right? But it was just to point out similar things that Deontay Wilder does that David Allen was doing that were effective, right, for mitigating your opponent's offense, right? So the idea behind doing these film studies when you're talking about fight prep is you want to look at what fighters do well against fighters of the similar stance, right? So if an orthodox fighter is fighting an orthodox fighter, what does this fighter do well against orthodox fighters, right? Here's a good example, right? When Maidana was training to fight Floyd Mayweather, right? He's gonna watch tape of Floyd Mayweather, and another thing is fighters use basically the same techniques against in every fight because that's what they're good at. That's what they do. That's how they win their fights. So they look to do those things better. It becomes kind of like their niche, right? Or how they learn to fight against certain fighters. And if you watch Mayweather fight every single right-handed fighter in his welterweight career, he fights them in exactly the same way. The pull counter, the lead left hook, the jab to the body, and like so Mayweather's style is basically jab to the body for the first 2 rounds, kind of slow you down, pick up your timing, then start hooking to the head, right? Lead left hook to the head, then lead straight right hand to the head, and then he'll bait you by making you think he's going to shoot a lead right hand, and he'll bait you into throwing a pull counter, right? So he'll bait you into jabbing at him to try to time that right hand, and he'll catch you with the pull counter instead because it has a very similar looking technique when you're standing in front of him, right? If you're watching on tape, you can see obviously he's going to pull counter and not shoot a straight right hand. But when you're in front of him, it's very difficult. But the idea is that fighters use those same techniques. Now, what I'm talking about with Maidana is he could see that the pull counter was something that Mayweather uses a lot in his fights against orthodox fighters. And there's a scene in, I think it's the second fight in the 3rd round, at the end of the round, where Maidana baits into the pull counter, he shoots the jab, and then he slips the pull counter from Mayweather. Mayweather shoots it, and he throws a right hand at the same time, and cracks Mayweather and makes him stumble, you know, and it's right at the end of the round. Otherwise, that could have been a knockout for Maidana. You know, that was a huge right hand. But the idea is that fighters use those same tactics in every fight, right? This is their craft. This is what they know how to do, right? And that's what they're working on in the gym. Now, there are some variations when you have game plans, right? Like game plan style fight was Daniel Jacobs versus Gennady Golovkin. That's not how Daniel Jacobs fights, right? But that's why people thought it was a good fight on his part. It was so different from how he normally fights. It was like a very clean kind of style fight, you know, but it also didn't look like a Gennady Golovkin kind of fight, right? Even though Golovkin was, you know, pressing the action or whatever. So sometimes you have variations where fighters fight a game plan style and they don't look like themselves at all, but usually you have 2 fighters come together and use all the skills that they've accumulated over the course of their career. And that's why film studies like this are so interesting. Now, one of the problems with doing it on Luis Ortiz is that no one's had any real success against Luis Ortiz. You know, no one's hurt him. I don't think anyone's knocked him down. You know, has he even taken a punch? Hardly, right? It's very difficult. So the idea behind this this film study is just to show ways that that Deontay Wilder is going to have success as well. And one of the how do you say it? The biggest contributing factor to who's going to win a fight is the one who's going to control the other fighter the most. Now, David Allen was doing a decent job of controlling Luis Ortiz with his feinting, with his head movement, with his slipping, his rolling, but he wasn't capitalizing on it. He wasn't making any offense on it. And I don't think that that's going to be the case with Deontay Wilder. I think Deontay Wilder is going to slip and roll and use head movement and feint with his jab and be able to throw his right hand and have the confidence in his right hand that David Allen, the much shorter fighter, doesn't. Also, David Allen's not nearly as big of a puncher as Deontay Wilder, right? So that's all I wanted to show with that example, is that Deontay Wilder will have similar successes in mitigating Luis Ortiz's offense. And getting back to what I was saying, when you're doing a film study like this, what you're looking for is all the ways one fighter is successful that may wind up translating into the fight with his opponent, right? So all the ways that he defends himself, all the ways that he offends his opponent, and then you want to look at all the ways that his opponent offends his other opponents, right? And may have success against him, and the way that he defends himself, and you kind of want to look at those skills and compare them, right? So from Deontay Wilder so far, we have a decent ability to turn away from the left hand and counter with the left hook, right? It's not a great left hook, right? But he might be able to work on it and turn it into a weapon in camp. It might be something that we see. He's got a good 1-2. And later on in the fight with Szpilka, who's very active in his guard with his lead hand and his head movement, he's able to control. He was able to control Szpilka with his lead hand and feint and probe and use the lead hand dominance to center Szpilka and stop Szpilka from being able to set up his punches in a way that would be effective against Deontay Wilder, right? And effectively taking away those setups and making Szpilka attack without a setup, which is very easy to counter. If you're standing in front of a professional fighter and you throw a punch, if they haven't trained how to counter a basic punch, they're not a real professional fighter. And Deontay Wilder showed when he knocked out Szpilka that after he's able to take away the setups from Szpilka and bait him into throwing a straight left hand, he's able to slip that and counter with his own right hand. Because he's a professional fighter. You know, if you watch, very funny, if you watch him fight that fucking little clown Charlie Zelenoff, right? Charlie Zelenoff starts winging punches at him, and you get to see this in like the non like, you know, camera lights, camera action style. You know, this it's so much less Hollywood looking, right? So it's so much more mortal looking, I'll say. And you watch him swing those punches at Charlie Zelenoff and knock him down, and you just realize how much more skill a professional fighter has and how much more able they are to counter punches that aren't set up. Against you know, a clown, right? And what you're looking to do when you're controlling your opponent is to take away their ability to use their professional boxing skills, to use their smarts, right? And David Allen was able to do that against Ortiz with his feinting and his probing, in spite of the fact that he wasn't able to capitalize on it. And now we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the video. I'm 9 minutes in, and all I've done is talk a bunch of bullshit. But here we're going to look at the 6th round, and we're only going to look at about 1.5 minutes of it, and we're going to be looking at the way that David Allen uses his feinting and his probing and his control, right, to slow down the effectiveness of Luis Ortiz. And the reason that that's important is because this is something that, like I said, Deontay Wilder is going to use to slow down Ortiz's his offensive output. And if he can slow it down enough, he can easily win on points just by being more active than him. Not necessarily winning the fight, right, by beating your opponent, right, but by game planning them, right, kind of in the vein of Daniel Jacobs, right? And that's the important part that I'm trying to get across here, is that it's not you don't always have to beat your opponent, right? Like people thought that Canelo beat Golovkin, right? But because Golovkin didn't get to fight the kind of fight that he wants, right? Now, if Deontay Wilder is able to control Ortiz, he may be able to stop Ortiz from looking like Ortiz enough to win rounds, especially being an American fighter fighting on American soil. So we're going to look at the 6th round. We're going to look at the first minute and a half of it and just watch how effective Allen is with his feinting and his probing to stop Ortiz from setting up his punches. Changing angles, slipping, moving off the line, moving back on the line, getting feinted, high guard. Now, Ortiz does a good job right there of walking him into an uppercut and then controlling him again. And then Allen moves off the line and he's not being controlled, right? And then controlling Ortiz with his lead hand, right? So right here, controlling him and able to kind of set up a punch, even though it doesn't land, right? That's not the point. Ortiz does a very good job of moving off the line, and this is something that he's going to need to do against Wilder a lot, right? Look at where his positioning is. As soon as Allen starts setting up his shot, he gets into his high guard, he covers his head and moves off the line. That's going to be something that's very important for him against Wilder, is moving off the line and not kind of getting caught with those crazy combos that he'll sometimes throw. But I think this is the part in the round where David Allen really starts to use his feinting and his probing, controlling. Now, right here, right, Ortiz is looking to set up his jab, and Allen starts controlling his lead hand, right, tapping his lead hand, right, controlling his glove, and keeping Ortiz's glove at home, right, then feinting him, controlling him with the lead hand, feinting him, control the lead hand, feinting him. Now, when I talk about control, even though Allen doesn't do anything with it, right, it's important to note that right here, right, when Allen feints him, Ortiz bites on the feint, right? Now, when you're controlling your opponent, you want to think about it, although Ortiz is still in position to counter with the left hand, right, he got baited into a position where he's not in he's in a more defensive posture than he is in an offensive posture. So David Allen may be able to feint him right here and then throw a straight left, or feint him and then come over the top with the jab, right? But Ortiz gets in a completely defensive position, right? He gets feinted and then he's able to catch the straight right hand of Allen, right? But because he's in a defensive posture, because he got feinted into one, right? So Allen could have chosen to use a different style of offense, right? But notice that Ortiz is not countering him. He's catching because he was baited into being into a defensive posture that allowed David Allen to safely throw his straight right hand, right? That's all I mean by control. David Allen is not utilizing the control effectively because he hasn't been throwing enough punches to set up that straight right hand, because he didn't know that Ortiz was going to bring up his guard and get a cross block on the straight right hand, right? But he did do a good job of getting Ortiz into a position where he wasn't ready to counter him with the feints, and that's all I mean by that. Now going to control Ortiz, again feinting, controlling him with the lead hand, keeping Ortiz's lead hand at home, controlling him again. And Ortiz gets a jab off there, right? But not really landing anything in the last 15 seconds. And this goes on for about a minute, right? Controlling him with the lead hand again. Ortiz doing a good job of controlling him right there, but not able to get any punches off, right? Because Allen is just baiting him, right? And Ortiz is smart, right? He kind of reverses the control game on him. He says, okay, I know what you're doing, because that's where Allen is looking to slip to the outside and then throw the left hook over the top of Ortiz's shoulder, right? But Ortiz correctly controlling him back, but not able to get any offense off either, right? And again, just talking about mitigating Ortiz's offense with the feint again, just slipping to the inside, right? Slipping to the inside, and Ortiz has to control him, but he's not able to set up any punches, right? Again, no offense, feinting him, and then he's able to throw punches of his own, right? Controlling Ortiz, right? Feinting him right there, getting him to duck low, and then controlling him with another feint, and then even though he misses all his punches, right, he's able to slow Ortiz down enough because Ortiz is not controlling him with the feints and the probes. Ortiz getting a shot off. Good job, Ortiz. And again, I'm a huge Ortiz fan, right? But we just want to talk about what's effective against him and what's not. Again, right, David Allen doing a good job of controlling Ortiz's lead hand and stopping Ortiz from setting up his punches. Now, I know a lot of people want to talk about, oh, Ortiz is playing chess in there, or Ortiz is taking his time. He knows he's not, you know, in any danger. You know, that's a cop-out. You know, I want you guys to know that when you hear that from a fighter, oh, I was just taking my time in there, that's a cop-out. They're full of shit. You know, the same thing with Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, right? Oh, I carried him all those rounds. That's bullshit. McGregor was out fighting him. And I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, right? But McGregor was doing a very good job in those first few rounds of controlling Mayweather and keeping Mayweather on the outside. Mayweather was not carrying McGregor, right? Even though I do realize that Mayweather crushed him in the later rounds, and I knew Mayweather was going to be the heavier puncher. Mayweather was not carrying him, right? And Ortiz is not carrying Allen right now. That's definitely not the case. He's just not having the success he wants to have because of the activity of Ortiz, or of Allen, with the feinting, with the slipping, keeping Ortiz from setting up his punches. Now, again, Ortiz doing a good job right there. But in the last almost minute of the fight, Ortiz has landed 3 punches or 4 punches, right? Just able to slow Ortiz down enough that if he was more active, he might be able to look like he's winning the rounds, right? And then again, able to set up his own punches, landing a couple shots of his own. We'll kind of break this down a little bit. So Ortiz coming in, feinting him, showing him the high guard, right? Showing him that same slip, and Ortiz very correctly doesn't shoot a hard punch at him, right? He's not launching that jab in there, which might get him countered. He's just controlling him, right? Probing with him, right? And what does David Allen do? After that probe comes, he comes in and he controls Ortiz's lead hand, right? To stop that jab from controlling him. Now he's in like a control battle. They're battling for lead hand dominance so that Allen can move forward, feint him with the right hand right there. Now look at how Ortiz's left hand gets that cross block to protect his chin, and he tries to set up that left hook to the head, or to the body, right? So he throws, sorry, to go back again. So control, right? Ortiz thinks it's going to be a straight right hand, so he gets his cross block up, and then Ortiz throws a left hook to the body, right? So he can set up a left hook to the head, boom, and lands a left hook to the head, right? All because he's controlling Ortiz, right? He's not winning the round, he's not winning the fight, right? But because he's controlling the lead hand and using the feints effectively, and he's making Ortiz go second, right? He's making Ortiz be the one that reacts to him. He's able to control him, right? So like I was saying, think about controlling your opponent like playing a video game, right? Where when you press A, your opponent's best option is to press A as well, right? So you press A, they counter with A. Now let's say it's kind of like the piano, right? Where the harder you press the key, the more defined pressing A is. So you press A halfway, right? And it goes ding, right? Or you press it hard and it goes ding, right? So you press it halfway and your opponent predicts that you pressed it hard, so he presses it hard, and now you've got a feint, right? You made your opponent overreact to something, and now you're able to control him with that idea, right? I know that I might not be explaining this like the most appropriate way, and as soon as my training partner, my boxing training partner that I made those first few videos with, gets settled into her new apartment, we're gonna start making some videos, and I'll be able to really explain this stuff with real boxing examples. But the idea is very clear, that your opponent has the perfect counter for it, but because you don't commit to these shots, you're able to walk them into other shots. And David Allen does a good job right there of landing that left hook. But anyway, that's all based off controlling Ortiz, right? And look at how much, if you watch the whole round again, Ortiz has landed some good punches, but I think there's only been 3 or 4 of those punches in the first minute and a half of this round, right? And that's the idea that I'm trying to convey, is that Wilder, with his active guard, with his feinting, with his head movement, may be able to slow Ortiz down enough to stop him from landing a lot of punches. And I think at this point in the round, Ortiz starts to really control. As you can see, he starts controlling David Allen with his lead hand. Instead of allowing David Allen to control him, he starts being the proactive one and really takes the round over. Now, people can say, oh, he was waiting for Allen to tire out, he was doing this, or he was in that. That's all bullshit, you guys. It's not true. You know, when a fighter says, like, oh, this is the feeling out process of the round, right? That's bullshit, you guys. There's no feeling out process, you know. There's no, you know, if you have a feeling out process, it's because you don't know what you're doing in the ring, you know, and that is very common, you know, especially with the way that American trainers talk about boxing and they talk about fighting. They're looking for holes in their opponent's game, right? They're not looking to create holes in their opponent's game. So they'll go in there and they'll throw a hard 1, 2, 3, and they'll see that he has a faulty defense for the 3, and they'll look to take advantage of it, or they'll set it up with hard committed punches in the hopes that your opponent makes a mistake. But Floyd Mayweather, he brilliantly says it over and over and over again. Good fighters capitalize on your mistakes. Great fighters make you make mistakes. And when you're looking for your when you're looking for your openings, right? You're looking for them. You're hoping your opponent makes a mistake. You're trying to capitalize on their mistakes, right? When you're not filling out your opponent, you're looking to make them make mistakes. And that's why fighters like Vasily Lomachenko, they don't have a lot of slow-paced rounds, right? They're actively doing things from the start of the fight all the way to the end of the fight, and they only get more and more active. It's because they don't have to wait for their opponent to give them mistakes. They know how to make them make mistakes. But anyway, Ortiz winds up going on to smash the rest of this round. But what I want to go back and talk about is round 4, where Ortiz absolutely smashes David Allen and has a really successful round. And he does it all on the back of controlling his opponent, and that's where most fights are won, is your ability to control your opponent. The fighter who has the most control over the other fighter is usually the one that wins, and that's why people thought that Daniel Jacobs beat Gennady Golovkin because they thought that he was giving him a box lesson. They thought that he was controlling Golovkin. From what little they understand about control, right? When you don't have a way to conceptualize and understand it, right? You kind of think about it in a, I don't know how to say it. It's a very rudimentary style. You don't think about it as control, but you know what you're seeing, and you think that that looks good. But anyway, we're going to watch this round. So sorry, going back right here. So immediately, Ortiz comes out, moving to his left, controlling David Allen. He knows David Allen's looking to set up that left hook, right? And he knows it throughout the whole fight. So he controls him. He sees that left hand coming, right? Takes a step off the line, even though he kind of gets cracked from that shot because he's moving to the left, kind of into that shot. He's still able to control Allen and see that punch coming enough that he's able to land a counter, right? Now, this is not something that he wants to do against Wilder, right? Like eat that shot and then land his own shot, right? But he does a very good job of making Allen pay for that. That shot, even though he lands it. And then what does he do right away? Controls David Allen, right? Work not really real punches, right? But he's shooting the jab at him, controlling him, and making David Allen work around that lead hand, and it stops David Allen from setting up his own punches, like this right here, right? He controls him with that lead hand, and then he gets David Allen to shoot that left hand or that right hand without setting it up, right? And that makes it very easy for Ortiz to see it coming because there was no feinting, there was no probing, there was nothing before that Ortiz had to worry about because Ortiz had his left hand or his right hand in his face and was controlling him. He took away all the effectiveness of the feints and the probes because Ortiz was not maintaining distance between them, right? Which is a very common misnomer in boxing, but he was controlling the space between them, right? Now the difference is if you are maintaining space and every time your opponent walks into that space, you punch him in the face, your opponent is eventually going to say, hey, I'll just step in and I know that punch is coming, so I'll slip it and throw a right hand, i.e., Sergey Kovalev versus Shabransky, right? Every time Kovalev would close the distance, Shabransky would shoot that jab, a hard jab, and eventually Kovalev said, haha, I see what he's doing, and throw a straight right hand right over the top, right? That's the idea of maintaining the distance, right? That's what Shabransky was doing. The only way he knows how to control the distance is with a hard jab. Here, this is a very similar situation to what happened with Shabransky, where Ortiz is controlling the distance, but he's not doing it with a punch. He's doing it with a probe. And he's just sticking his hand out there to make David Allen react so that he can counter the reaction perfectly, right? And this is exactly the same idea of Shabransky versus Kovalev if Ortiz is Shabransky, right? So David Allen has the perfect counter for the jab, right, which is the looping left hand or looping right hand, right down the middle or up the middle or whatever, you know. But because of the fact that Ortiz is not committing to that punch, he's simply baiting the counter to it, he's able to slip it, just pull counter it just a little bit and throw his own straight left. It doesn't land, right? But that's not the point. The idea is that this is all easily set up because of the fact that that Ortiz is controlling him with that jab or with that lead hand, just popping it into his face. And then again, able to control him and land that other shot, flashing the lead hand up and then going to the body. You know, it winds up being like on the belt line, you know, but that's just David Allen complaining, saying, hey man, you're already kicking my ass, you don't need to shoot low. But again, the same exact technique, flashing the lead hand up, controlling him with the lead hand, right? And notice all the times before when that lead hand would come up, right, David Allen would slip to the inside or slip to the outside. This time he doesn't, right, and he just eats a straight left hand. Look at all the success that Luis Ortiz is having in this round simply because he's using his lead hand. Look at how much more active he's able to be in this round than he was in the 6th round because he's controlling David Allen. Again, beautiful, right? Controlling him with the lead hand. He makes David Allen go first and kind of lands that left hand. Controls him again, baits that left hand again, and then lands a hook, an uppercut again. Just beautiful boxing from him. Right? Baiting the counter and then countering it beautifully because he's probing. Now, look at the stark difference between, like I was saying, like between this round and the 6th round when Ortiz is very active with his lead hand, right? Oh man, look at that. Beautiful, right? Probes him with the lead hand, right? Gets David Allen to react to it, and he reacts to it by slipping to the outside again, and Ortiz catches him with the left uppercut, or a right uppercut. Beautiful boxing. And all set up off of controlling his opponent with the lead hand. Look at how much more, and like back to the point, right? Look at how much more active he's been in this round than he was in the 6th round, simply by controlling his opponent, right? That's the biggest point of this whole film study that I want to get across, is that there's going to be a huge battle in the fight under the surface of landed punches for control of the space between the two fighters. And the one that has control between them is going to be the one that has that appears to be winning. You know, even though neither fighter is really going to be losing, they may be getting outpointed simply because the other one has control of the fight. But look at already in this 30 seconds or this 40 seconds, Luis Ortiz has already landed probably twice as many punches as he did in the entire 6th round, simply by controlling David Allen. Now David Allen doing like a little holding and trying to get on the inside, you know. But we'll kind of finish out a little bit of this round again, right? Baiting him into slipping to the outside, right? By simply flashing his lead hand and then landing a great straight right hand. I guess we don't really have to do the whole round. Because I've gotten that is my whole point, is that control that he has on his opponent with the lead hand is exactly what he's going to need against Deontay Wilder. And I guess I'll just let it play as I talk. Now, let's see. Now, although David Allen doesn't have a lot of success, we do see how in certain aspects, like right here, he feints him, right? Feints him again, and then he's able to kind of sneak in that right hand, right? By making the excuse me, by making Luis Ortiz be the one that's reacting, right? He's able to sneak in punches, right? Now, this is going to be like probably the biggest contention for who wins the fight, is who has control over the lead hands. Now, we've seen Deontay Wilder use lead hand control and then set up his straight right hand very well. We've seen Luis Ortiz do the same thing and arguably do it much better than Deontay Wilder. You know, I think that Luis Ortiz is faster. I think I don't know if he hits harder than Deontay Wilder, but he's sharper than Deontay Wilder. And he has a much wider range of offense with the uppercuts, the hooks, the shots to the body. And it's just going to be really interesting to see which fighter is able to maintain control of the other one. Again, beautiful. Flashing, you know, feinting with the straight right hand, feinting with the left hand, and then gets him to slip. Again, beautiful, right? So feints him with the right hand. Sorry, I went back again. And then feints him with the jab. He knows the jab is coming and walks him into a straight right hand because David Allen, you know, doesn't know how to control his opponent super well. You know, it's going to be really interesting to see who, like I said, who has control of the fight and who has control of the space between the two fighters, right? Deontay Wilder is not going to be able to slip to the inside, slip to the outside if he has Luis Ortiz's glove in his face, right? And Luis Ortiz is not going to be able to walk Deontay Wilder into huge punches if Deontay Wilder is controlling him with his own lead hand, right? Making him worry about the straight right hand of Deontay Wilder. So I think overall this is going to be a very, very interesting fight. And after this, I'm going to do some keys to victory. I think it's going to be it'll be like one video, and it'll be probably pretty short and pretty basic, you know. It's going to be about controlling your opponent. Well, I guess I could just talk about it now. Nah, maybe I'll just do another video. Chop some stuff up. Oh, let's see what happens here. Oh, so he shows him that slip to the inside right there, and he shows him that slip to the inside again and baits Ortiz into countering him, right, and lands a big right hand. You know, it's not super clean, right, but it still knocked Luis Ortiz off balance a little bit. But anyway, you know, just some really interesting stuff, and it is unfortunate. Well, it's not unfortunate for Luis Ortiz, right, but it's unfortunate that we don't have Luis Ortiz going through very much adversity throughout his career. Otherwise, I could give you a better film study, right, and really talk about some of the things that he doesn't do well. Because, to be honest, Luis Ortiz is a great fighter. He's very, very talented. He's a very good fighter. I don't know what his weight is, but I wonder what he could do if he was fighting at cruiserweight, if he could even get down to that weight. Because he does, you know, like, he's a little thick, you know, for this weight class. He's huge, but again, look at him controlling David Allen, control, right? Stops David Allen from being able to set up any of his punches, stops him from feinting, right? Just because he's controlling him with the lead hand, you know. But anyway, that's all going to be really important in the Deontay Wilder fight, like I said, like 100 times. And it's going to come down to both fighters, whoever has control of the other fighter with the feinting, the head movement, the slipping, and the lead hand control. That's going to determine who wins the fight. But yeah, maybe I'll do a keys to victory tomorrow or something before the weekend. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If there's anything that's not clear, let me know. And I'll kind of try to talk about it. You know, I've kind of been thinking about just talking about comments in the previous or in the next video and the subsequent video rather than responding to them, because it does take a long time to respond to all the comments and stuff. Even though I love that you guys comment, I love reading what you guys have to say. But it might just be a little easier for me to get my point across. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks, guys.